What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we got Joseph of the almighty Witherfall. Thank you so much for your time today, man. Great to talk to you.
Oh, thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you've been quite requested. Witherfall's been requested to be interviewed on the site numerous times, so great to finally happen. Shout out to all of our followers for encouraging this to happen.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
Yep. So this newest album is The Curse of Autumn, which is scheduled to come out very soon. Do you consider this like a continuation of A Prelude to Sorrow, or do you think that this is almost kind of like a new beginning for Witherfall in a way?
Prelude to Sorrow was about our drummer, Adam Sagan, passing away from cancer. So this record is a completely new concept. It was written during the prior year while we were on tour with Sonata Arctica out in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
It's really just like a Anton LaVeyan wish fantasy where you wish that you could have the power to conjure up a storm that can wipe all of your enemies and the people that are against you off the face of the earth. So it's quite a departure.
Mm-hmm. Being that you have like sort of like a concept to The Curse of Autumn, and I know that A Prelude to Sorrow was dedicated to your drummer, do you like think of a concept sometimes beforehand, and maybe that helps influence the music that we'll hear in the album?
No, it's kind of the other way around. When Jake and I get together to write, we really don't have a set plan at all. We just sit down together and start working on music, and once we get a few songs starting to take shape, then we really start to see what the scope of the album's going to be. Like, for instance, when we were working on Prelude to Sorrow, we started writing, and it was right around when Adam died. And I mean, the song Vintage was written like within a week of that happening. But other songs that we were working on, they start to get kind of shaved off. Like the song The Other Side of Fear on Curse of Autumn was originally, at least in part, written during the writing sessions for A Prelude to Sorrow. But once the whole concept started to take shape, we realized that Adam was the elephant in the room, at least emotionally, and our mood, that we just kind of scrapped that and then kept moving towards that, I guess you'd call it like a dark rock opera. That's how we work. We don't plan it out. We don't have a concept in mind in the beginning. It just all sort of works itself, into it.
So it's a fairly organic process to say, right?
Very organic. I mean, there's even within each individual composition, there's no preconception. I think that's one of the reasons why our stuff is so eclectic. If you listen to a Witherfall record, every song basically has its own life to it.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. And like as a fan of Witherfall, I think if you were to play me like 30 seconds of his songs, I would be able to tell what would be off of, Nocturnes and Requiems or A Prelude to Sorrow or The Curse of Autumn. So it's fair to say like you'd almost take a new approach to every Witherfall album, right? It's not like you have like a formula that you stick with.
Yeah, there's no formula. I mean, I think Witherfall was formed as, I would say we had a stance against that sort of band and that sort of writing. Like, our favorite groups are groups like Queen and Guns N' Roses, and I mean, dare I say even like Metallica had elements of that, especially in the early records where, like they got a lot of shit after they did Ride the Lightning because there was some slow songs and there's a song in a major key, like those are the types of artists that really interest us. If your whole record sounds the same and has the same vibe all the way through, I'm just not interested in listening.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said. Like some people do like consistency in their music, but I feel like Witherfall that's not what makes Witherfall. I'd imagine that trying new things and experimenting has to be relatively easy in the songwriting process, right?
Experimenting being easy?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, we don't even really experiment. Jake and I kind of approach songwriting, like Lennon, McCartney, or Simon and Garfunkel. Like, we just sit there with one or two instruments, and we just work out the melodies, and I'll work out the lyrics, and we go from there. Like, we're basically just writing songs, and then they end up heavy because we happen to like drums and heavy guitar.
Yeah. Being such a prolific artist, playing with Sanctuary and Midnight Rain and so many other bands, like, is there maybe, like, are you able to bring in does that help you bring in some new stuff to Witherfall as well, or do you try to keep them completely separate entities?
I mean, my process doesn't change no matter what I'm doing. I don't know if you can separate your influences from and call it honest. I mean, nothing changes from one project to the next. I mean, like, some of my older stuff had a little bit more of a darker gothic element to it, but that was just the time that I was in,
Yeah.
Like, as far as Sanctuary is a tougher one because that artist already existed before I came into the fold. Like, everything else has been basically my creation, or like with Witherfall, a joint creation with Jake. But Sanctuary is a bit tougher because you do have to have in the back of your mind that fans are expecting it to still somewhat sound, like the previous catalog.
Yeah, definitely. When it comes to, like, getting that source of inspiration to write, do ideas sometimes come out of nowhere, or do you almost kind of need to be in a certain place or be in a certain element in order for the inspiration to come through?
You know what? Like, there's two conflicting schools of thought. There's the Gene Simmons school of thought, where he's like, you have to treat it like it's a job, like you're inventing, and you just keep writing a bunch of crap or trying a bunch of bad ideas until a good one sticks. And then there's the approach that we take, where we don't really do that. Like, we just kind of hang out and just throw out ideas, and eventually something really awesome like just appears out of nowhere. Like, whether it's like a melody, doesn't even have to be a vocal melody. I mean, Jake and I, we're multi-instrumentalists. Sometimes, like, I'll pick up a guitar and show him something, or sometimes it'll, like, a chorus, for instance, like Moment of Silence off a Prelude. I had that chorus, the chord progression and everything already written, and then we just got together and worked out the rest of it. I would say the best ideas just hit you out of nowhere, like they're pre-formed in your subconscious, and then you just happen to be, like you said, in the right place, in the right mood, and they show up.
Yeah, I'd imagine that inspiration sometimes strikes at, like, the most inconvenient times as well, right?
Always, yeah. It's a real curse, these damn phones, because you want to turn them off to get away from all the, like, let's just say, like, the events that happened in the last 2 weeks, or but it's also, now everything is digital, so it's my scratch pad. When I was younger, I used to carry around a little notebook and, like a little moleskin, like I'm a fucking reporter. And now, like, your phone is your scratch pad for ideas, and you can't really turn it off. It follows you everywhere. So it's definitely a great tool, but it has its downside.
Definitely. It's funny, I was talking with a couple of artists, and they say they always get, like, musical inspiration when they're in the shower, so they need to invent like a shower/studio, like waterproof gear and, like, waterproof speakers and compressors and microphones, just so when they're showering they could go right to the drawing board.
Yeah, I mean, if you listen to our demos, or, like, looked at how we scratch these things out, like, you wouldn't even recognize the song. I mean, it's like, I don't write like that. Like, a lot of times, like, I have like a scratch pad, like a notepad on my phone, and I'll write the music out. Like, I don't like to try to perform the music when I'm writing it, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
like when we're demoing stuff, like Jake and I for Witherfall, we don't even care how it sounds. Like it could be a freaking ukulele, and we'll put down the idea. Like that's not. We separate the writing process from the actual like creating the sound later, almost like composition.
Definitely, definitely. Kind of going back to the Curse of Autumn. Do you feel like that maybe the first single that you released, Another Face, like could almost like serve as like a clear representation of what this whole album is going to sound like, or do you think that the singles are like just the tip of the iceberg in a way?
Yeah, it's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, the song that's coming out on Friday it's got some death metal elements to it. There's some really low guttural growls and some craziness. The first 3 songs were, I think, the most accessible, as far as, just the average rock fan could probably get into it, no matter what type of music you're used to listening to. I think those songs just kind of stand on their own as far as being catchy and singable.
Yeah, definitely. And again, kind of going back, like you have all this experimentation, and being that like, Witherfall, I mean, it's fair to assume that like, or claim that Witherfall is fairly a super group with, Jake and all the projects he's been involved with, Anthony and all the projects he's been involved with, Marco with all the projects he's been involved with. You always like have something new to the table to bring with Witherfall, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could call it a project. I mean, I call it a traveling fucking circus. Like we're driving down the freeway in jalopy, and people jump on and jump off. I mean, Anthony is the only one that's been with us on every record. I mean, I think we'd probably still have Adam if he was alive, but that didn't happen. So, we had Gergo Borlai. He played with Al Di Meola. He was on A Prelude to Sorrow. We had this percussionist on the Vintage EP, Timbali. And, I mean, he's done like tours with Michael Jackson and Phil Collins, and Marco especially is an insane, not just drummer but musician. Like, he's one of the best musicians I've ever had the privilege to work with.
Yeah,
like, you could hum him something, and then he's like, oh, that's that meter. Okay, now I get it. Like we were doing the song "The River," which is a very it seems on the face of it very simple, but it's not. The vocal melody is doing a completely different meter over the guitar part, and if you just were listening to the guitar part and you play the drums, it doesn't make any fucking sense at all. So, like, during the recording process, I actually went in and played the melody on piano, and he just instantly understood what was going on with the polyrhythms and played a perfect take to finish the song. It was nuts. Yeah.
It's incredible. It's incredible, and that's what's always great about Witherfall. Like it seems like you guys avoid the curse of a Witherfall song sounding too much like a Witherfall song. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it works for some bands. Like, I mean, obviously AC/DC, but even then, like, for those who have to rock sound like Back in Black or Shook Me All Night Long? Like, I don't know. Like, I think all the great bands have songs, and those songs stand on their own. I mean, the only thing that I see, like, a band like AC/DC or Metallica having in common is it's always the same instrumentation.
Yeah, definitely. It always has, like, the thrash aspects behind it.
Sure. Yeah, or at least up to the load or whatever for Metallica.
Do you like Witherfall's music to be open to interpretation, or do you try to maybe engage the listener into the story or the message behind the music as much as the music itself?
We like to leave little crumbs here and there, like on social media and whatnot. We don't spend too much time explaining everything, though. Especially the first record. The first record was really almost impressionistic. Like, you would really have to delve deep into the text to really get what's going on.
Yeah, definitely. And that's kind of like the beauty of it, because I feel like you're able to like make the listener want to know what was in your mind when you wrote this. Sometimes people don't really necessarily care about the message or care about the lyrics; they just care about the music itself and how it makes them feel, and they apply to their own meaning to it. But I feel like you're kind of able to like pull the listener into what Witherfall's about.
Well, I hope so.
You ready for the most difficult question of the whole interview?
I wonder what it is.
It's easy. It's easy for me to ask, at least, because it's the shortest question. How do you know when a song is done?
How do we know when a song is done? Well, for Witherfall, we know when a song is done when Jake and I can play it front to back, and you can hum the melody. That's when it's done.
Okay. That was a very... I don't know, that was very concrete, but also very open. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, we don't, like I said, when we write, we don't get into the production side of it. That we save that for later.
Yeah, but do you find it maybe like the longer you work on something, the harder it is? And maybe, I don't even know if this is like maybe a priority for you in songwriting, but like, do you almost feel like the longer you work on something, the harder it is to kind of capture a moment or maintain that emotion that initially sparked the writing?
Yeah, there's a bit of that for sure. But I think that if you have to work on something that long, that your idea is probably not that good anyway, and you should just fucking throw it out and start over. Like, I don't even, like I said, like, generally I will write something down from my brain to a piece of paper. Like, I won't go to the recorder, like Pro Tools or anything. I won't even pick up a guitar most of the time because, I don't spend all day with a guitar. It's just on paper. So if it's bad, you know right away. So you just don't pursue it. You don't even write it down. At least that's how I work. I think people get in these traps where they worship themselves and think every fucking idea that pops into their head is worth, pursuing.
Well, I give you a lot of credit for being able to be brutally honest with yourself, because I feel like that's something that lacks in a lot of the creative fields in the world today.
Yeah, well, it's that thing, and I'm guessing what people are doing just based on, that first, and it might have been the first or second question, where I think that artists, and I'm generalizing because there are a lot of artists I like, I think artists today are making, like, what I call, like, exercises in being that artist. It's like, yeah, that's great. That sounds like something you would do, but it's not something inspired or very good, or like you probably shouldn't have followed that idea. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
It's like there's like Metallica songs that are like amazing, epic, timeless songs. And then there's songs that are just like, oh, well, I guess that's a Metallica song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think that today people, they're quite satisfied with just making something that sounds, like what they want it to sound like, instead of making like a timeless song.
Yeah, you care a lot. Like, I feel like you focus just as much on the journey as you do at the end, and kind of want to like to abort missions sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, or like the writing process is, I think, has a lot to do with it. So, like, like I said, we approach this as like composers. So if we don't have to write it down to know what it is. We don't have to pick up the guitar to know what it's going to be. So it doesn't even exist if we don't like it in our heads. But I think a lot of guys nowadays, they plug in their guitar or whatever their instrument is, and, they put on a click track in Pro Tools or a drum loop, and they start writing to that. And to me, that's not even composition. I'm sorry. That's not pure writing. Like, pure writing is where you take something that's in your head and you make it come to life. Not like reacting to some preset idea, some template.
Mm-hmm. Well, there is something to be said, though, and maybe you don't even count it as art, and I love it when we drift into this, but But like, do you find it that like there's something to be said about people just creating something for the sake of creating it, like the urge, like because there is an impulse element that leads to creation as well, right? Like, and even if it's not really in the vein of what normally somebody does, there's something to be said about creation for the sake of creation, right?
Yeah, sure, but I mean, Yoko Ono is considered a singer by some people, so
Oh,
like how much credence does that word artist have? I mean, time and posterity is the best, judge of if something's great. Like, if you're still, I mean, we're all still listening to Handel and Liszt and Mozart, so there's plenty of composers that were just painting in the lines, coloring in the lines, that we don't even know their fucking name anymore.
yeah.
Like, how many thrash bands from the 80s that were aping Metallica and Exodus and Megadeth that, only the die-hard fans still even listen to. There's a reason.
Yeah. And I think, there's always DNA in art that, like, it goes neglected. Like, people say that heavy metal is just modern day classical music with electricity, and I couldn't agree more. When you trace back to the DNA of heavy metal, you see the classical influences in there.
At its best, yeah, sure. I mean, I would even go as far as, like, Motown and R&B has elements of all of that. I mean, it's music. When you get into, like, folk music, like jazz or at least certain types of jazz and blues and country, you start to see a different. It's almost like two branches of the same family. If we're going to get all anthropological,
Yeah.
it's like a different branch of the family tree, like no longer directly descended from classical music.
Well, and there is sort of like a science behind the creative aspect too, because like there are albums that like are addicting to listen to, and by that like triggering certain receptors in your brain to make you want to come back for more and more and more and more. So like there is sort of like a talent that you have to achieve with that as well as an artist.
Yeah, I mean, they've really gotten the whole lowest common denominator thing in today's pop culture down, like Max Martin and, all those big songs by, like, Taylor Swift and Katy Perry and, Miley Cyrus, all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But,
well, the thing is with the thing is with those artists, and I'm not saying I'm a fan in any way, shape, or form, but the fact is that they are products of the times that we are currently living in, and whether they write the songs or not, those lyrics that they sing about, with combination with the music, that is what the majority of people in modern day basic lifestyle go through. So
yeah, I mean, I know Miley and Taylor write their own stuff. I don't think Katy Perry does. But yeah, I mean, to me, like, that stuff, I hate to generalize. I like to go by the composition itself, by the song. Music is about, like, capturing a mood, and it's like it's specific. Sometimes you want to hear Master Puppets, and sometimes you want to hear Nothing Else Matters. And I think you're seeing this homogenization, like, going on, where it's like, is everyone really in this same mood all the time? I mean, like I mentioned Miley Cyrus, she's got a pretty eclectic discography, but what's big on the radio and in your face in pop culture is almost all the same thing. Whether even, like, when you dance between different genres like rock and pop and R&B, it's all got the same stuff going on. It's all the same mood.
yeah, I mean, when I listen to the greatest hits from the '90s, they at least for me, they give off a different vibe than the quote unquote great hits that you would hear nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely more eclectic. The last 4 decades, I think. The difference, though, if you look at some of the streaming figures, what's going on with people is they do have more of a tolerance for different genres. Like, young kids today don't really give a shit. If it's a young hip hop kid he'll listen to a rock song or something, at least they consider to be a rock song, and it'll be on their playlist. They'll have multiple genres, different types of music on their playlist like it's nothing. I think back in the 80s and 90s, everyone was separated into these little cliques.
Yeah.
And I think the good thing about modern music and the good thing about Spotify or services like it is that it allows you to create these gigantic, eclectic mixtapes, and, you're not forced into a corner like you used to be. And I think kids are more accepting of that nowadays.
Definitely. I've always had this discussion with artists that like the future of music is genreless. I think like I saw at Louder Than Life Festival last year, like I saw, or no, 2 years ago. I'm sorry, I'm losing track of time with all this shit. But but I saw Ice Cube play right before Godsmack and Guns N' Roses, and like the crowd was equally into it.
Yeah. I mean, as a musician, I think that's how I've always been. Like I've always enjoyed Dr. Dre's productions, and also some like gothic Portuguese doom metal. Like, I don't care if it's a good song and it's well crafted. I'm down for it. I don't really give a shit, who the artist is supposedly pandering to, or the audio aesthetics of the composition. I don't really care. If it's well written, it's well written.
Definitely. And part of me wonders, because, you take like a hit song from any generation, it's a hit song regardless, and people judge a hit song on, I'm going to sound like Gene Simmons right now, and forgive me, but like, like when a song becomes a hit song that everybody knows, it's because, millions of people resonated with it, and millions of people listened to it and downloaded it and know it word by word. So, but we've seen metal songs that were hits. We've seen pop songs that were hits. We've seen rap songs that were hits. Part of me wonders if there is a scientific element behind it that almost goes into the receptors of somebody's mind to make it appeal to them.
Yeah, like whatever it is, like, because they, all the money in the world that these companies have, we're on a branch of Sony. Like, if they could create it, they would just do that and make trillions of dollars. But they can't. Like, I fell into that when I was young, the thinking that, it's pointless. Like, you have to get in with these people, and then they push you and spend a bunch of money, and that's how you make it. And it's not that simple. They try all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, look, fucking Paris Hilton had all the fame in the world. The fucking, the social zeitgeist was like encircled around her, and she did a record and it did okay, and then that's it. Like, boom. Like, I think that you obviously need money behind you, whether that's your own money or you're working two jobs and putting out your own records, with that cash, or like you work with a company or an investor. But if it's not genuine and the songs aren't good, like, it doesn't matter. You can't fake it. I think that's what people resonate with, and I think that's what you mean by it. Different genres, but it doesn't matter. Some things just seem to resonate. But I think it's the honesty. Like, I think it's like, I mean, Kurt Cobain was not a fucking great musician or even a good singer, but it was honest, and some of those songs were really good, catchy. I mean, there it is.
Yeah.
And people respond to that. Like, and, I mean,
I couldn't agree more.
People respond to Dream Theater because they're intentionally, like, cerebral and dorky. Like, they're not trying to fake it like they're, like Carcass. Like, the honesty factor is huge, and people spot fakes, right away. And, those artists don't laugh.
Yep. Definitely. And, obviously I don't think people are going to resonate with, Stripped, Raped, and Strangled by Cannibal Corpse as much as, a Taylor Swift song. But you never know. But
that's the other thing, man. Like, I absolutely love some of those early Cannibal Corpse and Morbid Angel records. I'm a huge Pantera fan. But it's like the AC/DC thing. Like, nobody else can come along and be that. Like, once that's done, that's it. Does there really need to be 500 modern bands that are all copying Pantera? Like...
Well, I've always said nostalgia is the greatest enemy of art. Like, I get why and I'm serious behind it too. If people want to dislike this video for it, by all means. We were talking about the honesty is the main subject matter of this interview. Like, I get it. Dimebag was a phenomenal guitar player, one of the best in the world. There will never be another Pantera. There will never be another Metallica. There will never be another Guns N' Roses. The reason why they were as big as they were is because they were new at the time. Nobody ever heard something like that. And they had an image that at that time was considered to be edgy, or was considered to be different, or was considered to be a rebellion against something. But people tend to capitalize or brand or, try to repeat an image that was once meant to be like, I love black metal, but is corpse paint really necessary anymore,
Yeah, I mean, I like to wear fucking dark makeup sometimes, but the thing with Pantera that gets missed, too, is everyone tries to copy the hard edge and the groove and Phil's, like, most extreme vocals. But, I mean, they had fucking songs. Like, fuck, man, like, one of my first concerts that I went to on my own was Pantera with Hypo Negative opening in upstate New York.
That's a lineup.
And holy shit. Like, I was not even a Pantera fan because I just casually heard it here and there. And, I'm into singing. And like you said, like, Taylor Swift is always going to, last longer in the most people's minds because you can sing those songs. But when I saw them live, I was like, wait, he is actually singing here. Like, there is a melody. Like, there's some grunting here and there for effect, but there's melody there, and I think that's lost on a lot of these, like, I can't name names because we might tour with them, but you know what I'm saying? Like, if you can't sing the song, it doesn't have much of a life in the future. It's not, I don't want to say it's a fad, but Jesus Christ, man. Like, how are you going to translate that? Like, how are you going to, like, this might sound corny, but, like, I got some of my love of music from my dad, and we'd listen to songs in the car on the way to fishing trips, and, Neil Diamond, The Stones, Boston, Pink Floyd. And if I were to tell a friend about a song, I could just sing it. Like, I could hum it, Like, how do you tell someone about Hammer Smash Bass? Like, how do you do that? Like,
well,
how does that get shared?
Well,
like,
in death metal,
putting it on.
In death metal's defense, because I've seen Cannibal Corpse live numerous times, Morbid Angel live numerous times. Deicide is amazing live, like astronomically amazing.
Oh yeah.
Like their music. First off, their live shows are a force to be reckoned with. If you are not at a Cannibal Corpse show or a Morbid Angel show or a death metal show, you're not going to experience that in any style of music ever. Their shows have such a.
How many of those do you need? How many Cannibal Corpse does there have to be, like, that can be relevant? Because it's not like.
Well, if somebody said that to At the Gates, maybe we wouldn't have had melodic death metal. And if somebody would have said that to Whitechapel, we may have not have had deathcore. If somebody may have said that to Shadows Fall, we may have not have had metalcore. So I think there is plenty of innovation that could be gone through that. I mean, like, right now, like bands such as Vane or Code Orange or Twitching Tongues and Harm's Way are like bringing in this real hardcore element combined with like a real raw death metal aspect behind it with some shoegaze songs incorporated in it. Like, I feel like there's plenty of things to be done with it. But I could agree that sometimes we're going to make a straightforward death metal band. Okay, can you maybe do a little bit more with that? I can agree with you on that.
Right. No, and you're right, I think, but my point was more to, like, in the future, like, what's going to be songs on the radio? Yeah. It's going to be people that are singing.
Yeah. Definitely. You never know, though. You never know. I would love it if a death metal band actually,
You still hear classical music, but you don't hear, like, Indian or Chinese throat singing. You know what I mean? Like, like I said, I like some of it. But the majority of people want to hear a song.
Yeah, I agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more. This was a great.
It's not fair either. Cause like as a musician, like like I've seen Cannibal Corpse live. Adam, our drummer, he was drum tech for those guys on the last tour they did.
God bless him, because Paul's kit looks like a nightmare to set up.
No, they had a lot of fun. Yeah, I mean, those guys are all great. And from like, if you're a musician, then you can enjoy that, and it's no big deal.
Yeah, definitely.
But like as an average fan of just music, like I don't see any longevity. I mean, as far as those songs, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I might be wrong.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. But the fact is that they create music. And look, Cannibal Corpse played, like I saw them play at the PlayStation Theater for a sold out with Morbid Angel, Blood Incantation, and Necrot, and straightforward death metal show. And they killed it. It was sold out. I think that PlayStation Theater is like 3,000 cap or something like that. People love watching them play live. It's music that lets out their anger and their aggression. And
no, that subculture will probably always be around, like for sure. I mean, it's like 80s goth rock. Like there's always going to be, a few thousand people in any given city that are going to be into that and have their own thing around it.
Yeah, definitely. I'll sum it up by saying, don't create history. It's been done before. Create the future.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that Morbid Angel stuff was pretty cool, though. I was always a fan of Trey.
Oh,
we were playing.
Oh, he's an original mind. He's an original mind, that guy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed this conversation. It was great to really get lost and really nerd out on music while also promoting the album at the same time, because it's always gone one way or the other, and I feel pretty stupid at the end. Is there just anything with the Curse of Autumn that you would like to promote in terms of maybe like a live stream performance to hold people over, or anything else with Witherfall that you would like to promote?
We produce a wine with a California distillery, Charlie and Echo, and the 2020 version is coming out in April. So anyone that likes to drink wine, check out our website.
Ooh, I'm not, but I will recommend it to my parents because they love their wine.
Oh, nice. Hey, maybe I can send them a bottle.
And then maybe I could finally get my parents to understand why I like this music so much.
Right. Hey, the logo looks classy on the bottle. That's all I can say.
Now that you mention it, Witherfall really does. I feel like you could totally fool somebody, and like you could put that on like a storefront, and it'll be a Witherfall concert, but people go in there thinking it's like a brewery or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, Doug, you should have seen some of the early logos that got rejected. I mean, it looks like a Starbucks logo. We're like, what the fuck is this?
Hey, America runs on Duncan. America will run on Witherfall.
That's the East Coast, man. Well, so we have some hoodies that we have for promo. If you want one, I can ship you one out.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll definitely appreciate that. And again, Joseph, thank you so much. Everybody, Joseph of the Almighty Witherfall, The Curse of Autumn, coming out this spring, 2021 on Century Media. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We will see you next time.